everyone, this is Dawn. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to show you how to make a card using the stamp set from the These Are My People kit and papers from the Mix-In collections. This is the stamp set and it's available until the end of April. And then we're going to use a sentiment from the Say It In Style stamp set, and that's available in the core catalog. And then this is the mix-in paper that I've chosen to use. So let's get started. I've got a piece of eggplant cardstock, and I'm going to stamp the smaller floral image multiple times on this panel to make a patterned background. And then I'm going to emboss it with gold powder. So I am hitting it with the anti-static pouch, and then I'm getting a piece of scratch paper to put behind it so that I can stamp off the edge of my cardstock. And then I'm just going to ink it up with Versamark and do some random stamping all over this panel. So you have to work quickly so that the Versamark remains sticky enough to hold on to that powder. So I'm doing the upper half of this panel first, and then I'll sprinkle powder over it. And then you just tap off the excess. And then I'm going to random stamp the bottom portion of it before I heat set any of it. So I'm going to stamp a bunch of flowers on the bottom here. Same way, some of them are going off the edge, and I'm kind of turning my stamp around just to make it look really random. And then I'll sprinkle powder on the bottom portion of this panel. And then I'll tap off the excess. And then I'll bring my heat tool in and just funnel everything back from that coffee filter back into the jar. And I'm going to move my Versamat. I'm afraid of if I get the heat on that, sometimes it can warp a little bit. So I'm going to keep my panel up in the air and closer to the camera so you can watch the magic happen when you hit it with your heat tool and the embossing powder melts and transforms. So that is the background panel for my card. Okay, so now let's stamp some flowers. I've got some vanilla paper here, and this one I'm going to stamp in black ink, and then I'm going to emboss over it with clear embossing powder. So I'm going to do 2 of these, and I wind up only using 1, but I just wasn't sure where I was going to go with this, or if I wanted to use extra petals, or not petals, but leaves from this image, so I did 2. So I'm going to heat set that black ink just to be sure, and then I'm going to tap it with my anti-static powder pouch, and then I'm going to ink it up with Versamark and ink exactly, or as close to exactly, over that image with Versamark ink so that I can put clear embossing powder over this. Sometimes black embossing powder can get pretty messy, so it's easier to take your image and stamp it in black and then do it again with clear embossing powder over it. And I probably should have used my stamp tool, because then I could have hit my stamp in exactly the right place, but that's okay. It worked. So now I am heat setting it to melt the embossing powder with my heat gun, just like the other one. And that one's ready. I wanted to use clear embossing powder to create kind of a reservoir around each of the spaces on the image, and I am painting with shimmer brushes. So this is Wisteria, and make sure you shake up your shimmer brush before you start using it so that all of the shimmer will come out of the brush. And be careful when you squeeze that barrel because sometimes it can come out really fast. So this next color I'm coloring with is Julep, and it's available until the end of August, that color. And I'm not going to show the coloring of the other one because I'm not going to use it in my card. So I fussy cut the images off camera, and now we're ready to start building our card. So my card panel, I had cut it at 4 inches by 5.5, so I'm going to trim off another 1/4 inch off the end of it, so it's 4 by 5.25. I'm just bringing in my trimmer here to clean that up, and then I'm going to bring some black cardstock in because I wasn't crazy about the white base, since the background color of that mix-in is vanilla. I didn't want white DZ to be the border of the card. So I'm bringing in black, and that will be the base of the card, and it'll create a border around that eggplant piece. And I'm just going to attach everything with Tombow tape runner. Sometimes usually I use my broad tip glue pen to build cards with, but I just wanted to show some options for getting a low profile card. This one won't have a ton of dimension to it. And there are other options for adhesives. Okay, so I'm just layering everything together, and then I'm just figuring out what size I want to cut this floral piece. So I know for sure it's going to be 5.25 inches wide. And I kind of had to play with it a little bit as far as how tall I wanted that piece to be. And eventually I decided on 1 3/4 inches. I didn't want to cover up too much of my background embossed panel. And so now I'm going to stamp directly onto this floral piece my sentiment, thinking of you, and I'm just going to stamp that in black ink. I love the font on this image or sentiment here. And I got lucky and my stamp went down straight. So now I'm ready to attach this to my card, and I'm bringing in some gold foil paper, and I'm just cutting some really thin strips to create some borders around that floral piece, just to give it a little more definition and interest. Kind of bring everything together. So I'm going to attach the floral piece to my card. Got some adhesive on my Versamat there. So, and yes, it is a little higher. There's a larger space at the bottom of the card than at the top of the card, because one of the principles of design, when you're putting things together, it's better to have a larger space at the bottom, and it's not exact on both sides. It's just more pleasing to the eye. So that was intentional. So now I am running a thin bead of glue along the edge, and then I'm going to slide those small strips of gold right up next to them. And then I'm going to bring some foam tape in, and first I'm deciding if I wanted to use some more of those leaves off of that second image, but I thought it was full enough, so I was happy with the way that looked. So now I'm just putting some foam tape on here, and I'm going to attach it to my card. And then I played around with what kind of jewel I wanted to use in the center of that flower. And on film here, I've got a black gem. It's retired from close to my heart. But then ultimately I decided to trade it out for a gold one. So clean and simple. I appreciate you watching my video today. I'll make a list of all the supplies in the description below. Please hit that subscribe button if you haven't subscribed already. And thanks for watching.